Hi, and welcome to Positively Sparking, podcasts on internet marketing, online business, entrepreneurship, and digital living. Today, I'm with Julia Pearce of Literature and Latte, the creators of Scrivener, the award-winning software that has been described as the biggest advance in software for writers since the word processor. We'll be chatting with Julia about how it all began on their kitchen table and Scrivener grew into a bestseller. So hi Julia, how are you?
Hello Phil, I'm fine, thank you.
Great, well thanks for being here today. I'm quite excited, I'm a writer myself, so I use your software every day.
Excellent. It's always good to hear.
So Julia, tell us about you, what you do and how you came to do it.
Okay, so our company is called Literature and Latte. We produce two software products actually. There's our main product is Scrivener. Scrivener is basically it's an organisational tool for writers, and what it does is, well, if you think about, for instance, if you're writing, say, a novel, or even actually if you're writing something like a university thesis, you might have taken some pictures somewhere. You might have some audio files, interviews that you've that you've made with people. You might have picked up some sort of video clips from the internet and so on, made some notes, just jotted down a few things every so often in a Word file or something like that. And what Scrivener allows you to do is to draw this all into one project, so that you can have various sort of bits of research that you can refer to. And what you can do is you can do things like split the screen, so that you can actually be looking at a piece of research or listening to an audio file or something, and then actually making notes of it in a separate screen. So rather than sort of currently thinking, oh no, I made some notes on, I don't know, sort of pig farming in Australia, but they're somewhere in my computer and I can't exactly remember what I call the file, and doing sort of extensive search when you want to actually look at that, and then obviously switching between windows to write things and look at the original document. You can just have it all in one big go. There are also some various sort of more complicated tools that you can use a bit later on. For instance, if you're writing a novel from two particular points of view, sort of Peter and Jane's, what you can do is you can tag a chapter, if it's Peter's chapter or Jane's point of view chapter, and eventually you can sort of go back and compile all the different chapters that are organised from each point of view, just so you can read through and look at sort of continuity, tone of voice and so on. So it's basically, it's a tool for organising your writing, for helping you keep track of all the things that you've done. It's also very adaptable as well. You may never need to use some of the sort of tools that you've actually got in the software, but it gives you a lot of options, basically, and just helps you to organise your writing and lets you concentrate on the writing rather than searching around everywhere, thinking about where you might have put your research, or how to look at something whilst making notes on something else, really.
Oh, a great description there. And one thing I found that with writers I know that use Scrivener is everybody has a different favourite feature, because there's so much you can do with it that it's quite a wide and vast program in its possibility. And sometimes, me being a digital person, we find every now and then a bit of software like that. So the first one in my life was Photoshop.
Oh.
So simple to use, but then there's so much possibility and other things that are deeper within the software. And Scrivener is very like that. My favourite feature is a simple kind of full screen writing that you can do. I love that because it blocks everything else out on my computer. But then friends of mine will have something else that they love, and particularly the ones that use it for academic writing. For them, it's a real collation tool, so they can keep everything together. So before Scrivener was around, what did most writers write on?
Well, there are a variety of different applications out there. I suppose, same as nowadays, most writers do tend to write on using Word or possibly Pages if they've got a Mac. Even nowadays, actually, I think the majority of writers still do use Word, really. But there are a lot of specialist programs out there before Scrivener was developed. Things like Copyright for Mac, which I don't think is actually being developed so much anymore now. Storymill, Liquid Storybinder, Page 4 for Windows, and also one of the companies actually that is still going and is very good, which is Ulysses. They're a German-owned company, and they're only for Mac, but they produce a tool it's got some similarities to Scrivener, I suppose. But we're very kind of open about our competition, really. We actually have a page on our website which details all the different types of software that you could use if Scrivener's not for you. We don't really believe that one type of writing software suits all writers. So yeah, there are a lot of things out there. Some are still around. Some of them actually fell by the wayside. But really, there's something out there for you, whatever you want.
Great. That's very open of you to have that page on your website for other packages. So how did Scrivener change things?
I don't know. I think Scrivener changed things in a way because, well, Scrivener was actually. I'll go a little bit into the actual story of Scrivener, but it was developed by my husband Keith Blount. He was actually looking for something to write a novel on himself, and he'd also just been writing up a university thesis as well for his PhD. And he looked around all the different bits of software on the market and couldn't quite find one that did all the different things that he wanted to. One of the basically, I suppose the main idea behind Scrivener is that each document acts like a piece of paper, really, with a little index card clipped to it at the front, a virtual index card. And you can flip to a view in Scrivener where you have a virtual corkboard and you can shuffle around all your different index cards, and the documents sort of behind them that are attached to them will actually go with them. So you can reorder all your work using that as a sort of editing tool. That's the kind of thing that he wanted, and there was nothing on the market at that point which did that. So he tried to teach himself to code. He was a Windows user at that point, tried to teach himself to code using Windows, and it's very complicated. Couldn't quite get to grips with this at that time. So in the end, he bought a Mac. And actually, coding for Mac's a lot more simple. You have quite a lot of the sort of the basic building blocks of programs which are actually given to you using Xcode. So he taught himself how to use that. And then took it from there, really, and built the software that he wanted himself.
Wow. So Keith is an intelligent man, Julia. That's what I know already, just from that description.
I don't tell him that very often, but yeah, I suppose he is.
So he learned to code himself and developed the first version on a Mac.
That's it, yes. And he's basically the whole program is still coded by him on the Mac. We now have a couple of people over in Australia, and they developed the Windows version using the Mac version as a sort of template. There are some things in Windows that you can't do, sort of like quick look panes and so on, because Windows doesn't actually have that capability. But they've worked around it, and we've got some different things that the Windows version uses. But we're an international company now because literally they're on the other side of the world coding the Windows version, and they sort of have to keep up with what he's coding for the Mac version, which I kind of pity them really because it doesn't move quite quickly sometimes.
Wow, great stuff. And Scrivener now is very well known in the writing world, isn't it? If you start out as a writer and you start to look for software that lots of other writers use, it's one of the first ones that people will talk about. So when you first launched Scrivener, what did you expect?
Well, I think like a lot of internet businesses, actually, we sort of expected to sell about 1,000 copies and have a little hobby business that, would occasionally bring in a bit of pocket money, but not much more. It was actually sort of launched. We were living in South East London at the time, and it was my husband was teaching at that point, teaching in primary schools in South East London. And we launched it sort of in our kitchen. And, we're sort of thinking, well, maybe this will take off, maybe it won't. And it grew very quickly. The actual story of the launch is that there's a novel writing competition every November. It's run by an American company called the Office of Letters and Light, but it's called NaNoWriMo. It's kind of spread all over. It's called National Novel Writing Month. It's not national anymore. It's spread internationally, hence the fact they've got a Devon and Cornwall chapter as well. The idea behind it is that if you're a writer who's sort of starting to write or just wants to sort of actually get something down on the page, the challenge is to write 50,000 words in the month of November. So it starts on November the 1st, finishes on November the 30th. Various companies like ourselves sponsor it, and also you get rewards at the end of the month if you complete your 50,000 words. The emphasis really is on quantity, not quality. So you've just got to sit there over that month and bang out 50,000 words. Then you can edit it to your heart's content afterwards. But, really, it's just creating something that's the size of a novel in a single month, and that's it. And we launched Scrivener, the first version, on their forums, and sort of, said to people, well, if you're interested in using writing software, is this the kind of thing that you'd be interested in? And we sort of gave them a version to download, and people looked at it and went, might be something that we'd like to give a go. So we thought, well, fine, fair enough. Took it off the boards, fine-tuned it, launched it in 2007, and expected to sell 1,000 copies. I think we sold about 14,000 copies in the first month or two. It was absolutely incredible. And the challenge then obviously was kind of keeping up the day job and also, fixing bugs, keeping development going and so on in spare time. So eventually we decided to leave London and also took the plunge to actually make development of Scrivener a full-time job for both of us when we moved down to Cornwall. We were very lucky as well that we the area that we were in served by the Devon Exchange, and it was one of the sort of first guinea pig areas that was served by superfast broadband, which was absolutely perfect for us. Completely coincidental, but we've got a lovely place to live now, and also great broadband, and we can keep our jobs going. So it's great.
Wow! So it sounds like everything came together at the right time in the right
I know,
way.
it was pure coincidence. The market was there, infrastructure was there, and it all worked very well.
Well, something you said there, which is a great rule of kind of online marketing, which is, my other side of myself is a digital soul. We have to find our markets online, and I guess because of Keith and perhaps yourselves' involvement in the writing world, you knew where that market was.
That's it. And being passionate about it, I think, as well. It was a tool that actually we wanted to use for ourselves. My previous job was as a science and technology journalist. So again, as far as organising research and sort of transcribing interviews and so on and so forth, I had the same kind of problems as someone writing a novel. Just, needed some way of actually being able to look at videos and use audio files at the same time as typing within the same program. So it all came together and sort of helped to create what Scrivener is now.
Fantastic. So how do you promote Scrivener today?
Well, most of our promotion is still online. We do sponsor the odd sort of show, things like sort of Port Eliot Festival, various other sort of different little writing festivals, and offer copies of the software as well for auction in a lot of American shows where they have a raffle at the end of the show and so forth. But most of our promotion still is done online through Facebook and Twitter, a little bit through LinkedIn as well, but not so much. But it's again, it's sort of word of mouth and kind of just getting yourself out there really and being quite responsive. I think really we're quite lucky because the product has got it's very flexible. It doesn't sort of tell you how to write. You don't use sort of the snowflake method or something like that where you have to enter sort of character names and do a short synopsis of characters before you can even start writing. You can edit, you can put a novel that you've written in Word or something in and edit. You just use Scrivener for editing, or you can start and plan in Scrivener and then go on to write and so on and so forth. But because of the flexibility, it just appeals to a lot of people really. And so word of mouth, people tend to sort of spread the word, and really, that is the majority of our marketing, I think.
Organic growth.
It is, and it's so much easier now that you've got this huge online community as well.
Which grows and grows every year, doesn't it? That's the great thing about the online world. So a word that you mentioned just in the last question before was passion. And one thing I found in my marketing career is that for organic growth to truly happen, it has to be a passionate business. And if that business resonates and manages to promote that passion out in their marketing, then organic growth has a real chance. Even if they go on to do all kinds of paid for advertising, the online or kind of the organic side can still grow with that. And that's certainly something you have. So that's a great example for anyone who's doing any kind of web marketing. If you manage to put your passion into your marketing, it really can spread.
That's it. And I think as well as that, actually, I think a lot of our appeal is, even we're still quite a small company. We've got about 10 people working for us, maybe 12 people working for us now, actually. But also on the forums, we have a forum on our website, also on things like sort of Twitter and Facebook and so on. Even the people, Keith, who's our main developer, he sometimes answers questions, gets back to people and so on. And I think having that personal touch and thinking that sort of the customer services team aren't removed, or the support team aren't removed from the people actually creating the program, I think that's really important. Actually, it's just for everyone to be accessible rather than sort of giving off the idea that you're this huge corporate entity. I think people do like to actually get engaged with the people who are in charge.
I think you're right. I think that's great relationship building where everyone is so accessible and we feel like we're getting a proper answer rather than being passed on. So where is Scrivener headed?
Well, at the moment, we are developing our iOS version. So that's going to be for iPad and for iPhone. It's been in development for an awfully long time, and it's probably a good example, actually, of how not to develop something. We outsourced it to a couple of people and also to an agency as well for a while, and none of them, well, one of them unfortunately had to drop off the project because of a family illness, but the other two people didn't. It didn't really work out. So in the end, we took it back in-house and learned how to code for for mobile devices, which is a little bit different actually to doing desktop. So Keith's put it together now in sort of 6 to 9 months really, and we're just about to enter into our beta testing phase. So it's going to be out sort of some point during the summer, hopefully, maybe late summer. It depends